What is up, guys? Coach Cam back again with another video. If you don't know, I am a firefighter and I also have a master's degree in exercise science. And here's how I train in the gym. So, starting off here, low incline dumbbell bench press, 80-pound dumbbells, and just a little background. So, I have a background in running cross country and track. I have a background in doing body weight exercises like push ups, pull ups, dips, muscle ups. You can find more of that deep in my Instagram page. However, I wanted to talk about today how I train specifically for firefighting. So, to start off, I train the muscles of my body very, very hard. And I find that this is the best way to prepare my body for basically anything, right? So, besides actually practicing firefighting, which is the best way to get better at firefighting, you want to have some fitness and some strength and muscle behind your training. So, in the gym, I'm focused on training my muscles very, very hard, training them to failure. So after the dumbbell bench, I moved to doing dumbbell skull crushers. This is 27.5 pound dumbbells. And I generally keep my training, it's hard to say, but I would say 5 to 8 reps on most exercises, training with moderate to heavier weight, controlling the exercise, and contracting the target muscles as hard as possible. This will give you the best bang for your buck in the least amount of time, having to do the least amount of total volume in your workouts. So, if I was trying to get better at firefighting, I would train my muscles very hard as I do in this workout, and then I would also practice firefighting. So, practice having your gear on, pulling hose, right? Going into buildings, going up and down stairs, stuff like that. I wouldn't try to bring any of that into the gym with me, because what you end up doing is you just kind of suck at both, right? You're creating this environment where you're not really getting a deep enough stimulus on your muscles and on your body, and you're not training specific enough for actual firefighting. So, what other firefighters might say is they might start doing burpees on the ground, then they might go over to the battle ropes and do a few sets of that, and then, I don't know what all they would say that you roll around on the ground. I don't know, but in my mind, from my experience as well as my background in exercise science, I would say train the muscles of your body as hard as you possibly can in the lowest possible volumes. So I generally do one set per exercise and no more than two exercises per muscle. So that's generally where I'm at. Most people, if you train as hard as possible, this will be all that you will need to do. As far as training frequency, I train each muscle once a week. However, each time I show up to the gym, I push myself as hard as possible to make progress from last time. I'm not just in the gym doing rep after rep, wasting time or building up a bunch of volume. I am here to stimulate my muscles mechanically with mechanical tension, as you've probably already heard. So that's how I train for firefighting. It prepares my muscles, it prepares my body. And then, as far as actually the skills of firefighting, it's important to go practice firefighting with your crew, right? With your engineer, with your officers, on your truck, with your gear, the exact gear you're going to be in, all that type of stuff plays into the movement patterns that your body is building when it comes to the actual fire ground, right? Throwing ladders, muscle memory with throwing ladders, pulling hoses, stuff like that. Um, doesn't matter how strong and fit you are in the gym. If you've never practiced firefighting, you're not going to be very good at it, right? You'll be better than somebody who's never worked out, right? So the fitness is helpful and it is kind of that background, that supporting role for your performance. But you need both sides. You need practicing firefighting side and you need training the muscles as hard as possible so that you have strength and cardiovascular fitness, right? And you might be watching this and say, Coach Kim, how is this cardiovascular fitness? Like, you're not doing cardio. And you're right, I'm not doing cardio in the traditional sense. Although, like I said, I have a background in running cross country and track. My best 5K was 16:07. My best 1500 meter was 4:14. So nothing too crazy, but decent marks that I'd run. And I would say that you don't have to run to get cardiovascular stimulus. You do not have to do burpees. You don't have to do any particular activity. What you do have to do, however, is contract your muscles. When you are running, you're contracting your muscles. When you're doing burpees, you're contracting your muscles. That's why your respiratory rate increases, your heart rate increases, all of that, right? So keep that in mind. The whole point of exercise is to contract your muscles. Now, you want to contract them in such a way to get the most benefits, right? And to also reduce the risk of injury and overuse. So for me, that's doing the lowest volumes, getting the most bang for my buck. Like right here, I'm contracting my calf muscles directly under load. You could do jump rope and say you're kind of training your calves by doing jump rope. You could ride a bike and say you're kind of training your calves riding a bike. Or you can pick up a weight, pick an exercise machine, cables, whatever it is, directly challenge your muscles and take them to fatigue. So that's how I prefer to train. And that's what I found is helpful. As you know, if you are a firefighter, most, or at least, a large portion of firefighters aren't doing any training whatsoever, right? They don't train the muscles of their body. They might practice firefighting, but they don't train the muscles of their body. So we all know and can agree that they would improve their firefighting performance if they train their muscles, right? If they got fitter and stronger. So I highly recommend something like this, which is very sustainable for a crew. If you wanted to train with your crew, you could go to a gym, or if you have a gym on site, you can use quite literally any equipment as long as you train the muscles close to or to muscle failure, right? That's the hardest you can train, and that's getting you the most bang for your buck. So hopefully, in this video, you've kind of gathered some information that can help you become fitter, become stronger, and help you on the fire ground. Obviously, you need to practice firefighting. There's no way around that. And if you just practice firefighting and you don't train your muscles, you will severely increase your risk of injury on the fire ground because you were never strong to begin with and you were never fit to begin with. So here's my post-workout flex. Everything on the left is what I did last time and this time. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys, so much for watching.